Сайн байцгаана уу хүн түлэгчтэй. Өнөөдөр манай де факто нэвтрүүлгийн зочноор Бүлэгт найрамдах Энэтхэг улсын Төрийн албаны холбооны комиссын дарга ноён профессор Давид Сyiemlieh оролцож байна.
Давид Syiemlieh Бүлэгт найрамдах Энэтхэг улсын Төрийн албаны холбооны комиссын дарга. Профессор Давид Syiemlieh нь 1979 онд түүхийн ухааны чиглэлээр бакалаврын зэрэгээ хамгаалсан ба үргэлжлүүлэн 1980-аас 1985 онуудад магистр, докторийн цолоо философийн ухаанаар хамгаалжээ. Капитализм ба империализм, орчин үеийн энэтхэгийн түүх гэх мэт сэдвээр дотоод гадаадын олон нэр хүндтэй сургуульд урагдан лекц уншдаг ба хэд хэдэн ном туурвсан. 2012 онд Бүлэгт найрамдах Энэтхэг улсын ерөнхийлөгч нь Давид Syiemlieh-ийг Энэтхэгийн Төрийн албаны холбооны комиссд гишүүнээр томилсон. 2017 оны 1-р сарын 4-өөс тус газрын даргаар ажиллаж байна.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
So please tell us about your, first of all, your visit here, how much is going on now, what is this about?
I'm coming on the invitation of the chairman of the Public Service Council. I got an invitation in March this year, and it took me some time to firm up a decision, and then I was only free in October, and I'm here for 5 delightful days.
Okay.
No, not 5 years, just 3 very delightful days,
Okay.
and yes.
You have been nominated to this post by the President.
President of India, yes.
President of India. Please tell us about the post. This is a so important post for us in Mongolia, and we would like to learn more about public service of your country.
The chairman and members of the UPSC hold constitutional positions, which means we are appointed by the President of India as provided by the Constitution of India. We are 1 chairman and 10 members in the commission, supported by a large secretariat to manage the entire the affairs of the functioning of the honorable members and the chairman. And our term is for 6 years till the age of 65. And we come from different backgrounds. All of us are nominated and appointed, I would say, by the President of India.
How long you said, sir?
Our appointment is for 6 years till the age of 65.
What happens if it is 65, retire?
Oh, after 65, we retire honorably and go into retirement writing books like I will write books, I will give lectures, I'll go for university, whenever universities invite me and such. Yes.
Okay. And what is the main mission of the commission?
The mandate of the commission is to make appointments to the Government of India Group A services. Group A meaning the higher level of administrative positions in the Government of India are filled up after an examination conducted by the UPSC.
How many total A, B, C series?
Oh, we have A for the Government of India officers, which we make appointments to. Group B and C services are appointed by a similar commission called the Staff Selection Commission. It's another body, extremely large. The support for the Group A services.
So let's talk about particularly your group. From which position in the ministry, or who is
We start
nominated
from
by you?
undersecretaries.
Okay.
Undersecretaries.
From undersecretaries.
From
And
undersecretary.
Who is up?
Pardon?
Who is upper than?
Undersecretary, then you get additional secretary, joint secretary, and then coming up to the level of the secretary to the Government of India. There's about 6 or 7 levels.
And secretary is, in our terms, minister.
Yes.
So now, the minister, whoever is winning the political election, that party nominates the secretary.
Not in our situation. In our situation, they rise up in their profession to become secretary to the Government of India. It's not a political appointment.
Well, then what happened? Who is changed when the parties...
No, we have no change in our bureaucracy. The bureaucracy is a permanent and stable bureaucracy.
Well, when you say bureaucracy, then I mean, how then the ruling party will implement?
They may
their
change policy and frame and give direction in policy, but the administrative machinery continues to function.
Policy may change, but not the people.
Not the people, not the administration. No.
Well,
they are there to give support to the political directives.
Say now Prime Minister Modi. He had changed the minister secretary or not when he came to power?
He can have a change in his own ministers and in his cabinet, but invariably the secretaries to the government of India are not changed.
Okay. Then who the member of his cabinet? What is the name of these people? Minister or?
Yes, they are cabinet minister or ministers of state.
Okay, how many of them?
Well, it depends on how large the cabinet is to be composed.
Now
I'm really not sure of the figures, but it's a good 20 to 25.
Okay, say 25.
Yes.
And this minister, say, Prime Minister nominates Minister for Education.
Yes.
Okay. That minister relations with the secretary is who is working under him.
Yes.
And that person may change a policy, but he cannot fire that secretary.
No, that's not possible, because the bureaucracy is a permanent structure in our administration.
Mm-hmm. So now this is a particular shocking news for Mongolian
but
cabinet.
It's a system that we've been in operation for years.
Yeah,
it's been in operation for years to very good advantage to the country.
Yes. Years ever since independence almost, right?
Oh yes, no, even before that.
Even before.
From 1935, it started in 1935 by an act to the government of India under the British Raj. And then it continued after 1950 with the Constitution. So this pattern really continues.
Okay, let's now go back. If you take a ministry, which is 25 plus or so, on the top is a minister who can be changed depending on who is winning, right?
Yes. Not only is winning, the Indian Constitution provides for the cabinet to hold their office to the satisfaction and the confidence of the Prime Minister.
Of the Prime Minister, and that minister under him is who? Secretary?
A secretary.
How many?
Well, usually one, because in education there'd be one, but education is in higher education, primary education, different levels of education.
A secretary would be one on this ministry.
Well, we could even have two if higher education is separate from primary education.
Okay. And under that secretary,
then you have joint secretaries, additional secretaries, under secretaries.
Why should you necessarily have all the secretaries, or
because it's such a huge functioning of the government? And
well, then let's go back. How many general public offices you have in India?
Generals?
Yes. No, I mean public offices. How many millions?
Oh, well, the Indian bureaucracy would be, the Indian supportive staff to the government of India would easily be about 1 million.
Wow, 1 million.
That's huge, because we're a country of 103 crores.
Billion, yes.
Yes.
And say 1 million public officer, and out of them, under this group A, how many of them?
Well, it would be substantially less than that, because the large base is the secretarial staff who come up and support, yes.
So I'm trying to figure out, for the sake of our audience, in particular for Mongolian public officers, to understand the merit of that system. How do you select these people?
We select them through a process of advertisement. First, we have the recruitment rules ready. Then we do an advertisement. We receive applications all online. And it's a staggering number who apply for the very prestigious Indian Civil Service. We have an examination called the Indian Civil Service, which comprises 22 services. 22 services. Including the Indian Administrative Service, the Indian Foreign Service, the Indian Police Service, the Indian Audit and Account Service, the Railway Traffics, and a number of other services. Let me give you a staggering figure for you, not for us.
Okay.
But we had 1.2 million applicants in the last advertisement. 1.2 million applied. Yes.
Wow. For how many seats?
Just 1,200.
For 1,200 seats, you
Yes.
have, what, 1,000 for one seat?
It'll be like 1% would get it. You know?
Wow.
Yes, that's huge.
Wow.
And there's a 3-process interview. Number one, they have to meet all the eligibility.
Uh-huh.
Then there is a preliminary examination covering 2 papers, which is online, which is, it is objective type. That is examined. And then maybe about 30 or 40,000 would do the final examination. And it's comprising of a number of papers: English language comprehension, an Indian language, a subject content, whether it be zoology, botany, chemistry, history, and ethics. And so they do this examination over 5 days, and the results come out. And in fact, they're going to do the examination on the 28th of this month. 28th.
Once a year, or?
Once a year. It's very, very set every year.
Okay.
And the results will come out in about 2 months' time. And then we have the interview process in the early part of next year.
But should one go through, say, your case, Group A case, should they go from this position and all the way to the secretary through all these positions, or?
Yes, it takes 30 years or so to move up.
Wow.
Yes, and they're very, very conscious of moving up at one level to the other. And there's provision. There is provision for upgrading one's position over these years, depending on skills, depending on the number of years they serve, depending on performance appraisal. We have a performance appraisal, and according to these criteria, an officer may move up.
Wow. Performance appraisal, is it made from centrally, or
No,
it is?
The officer fills up his own appraisal, and it is it has to go through a senior officer who will agree or disagree or whatever, make comments on the appraisal of the officer. Then it goes to an accepting officer, and these are done annually. Every year, these are put to the personal file of the officer concerned.
Every person is reviewed annually.
Annually.
It may be after 2-3 years, maybe upgraded.
Well, they can go when vacancies arise. Their eligibility would be there. They can even go on deputation. Once they improve their skills, they may move from one branch of administration to another branch of administration on deputation. Then they come back to the parent body. Yes, and that's how things have been moving.
Excellent, perfect. And on the average, the best secretary would be, any Indian secretary would be, on the average, 30 years public service.
Usually they've got, like you have here in Mongolia, who's the senior most bureaucrat among the secretaries. Higher than the secretary is the cabinet secretary.
Cabinet secretary, who is still under the minister. And it's open, this is the sort of...
Very fair.
It's very
extremely fair.
Okay.
Very gender inclusive. Even physically challenged and visually challenged, and applicants can apply for these positions. And it's so prestigious. There are people who do it, 3 or 4 times. They may not pass 1 year. They'll come back again the second year and the third year. It's open for a number of years for them.
So let's talk about, public officer in Mongolia, for example. We fight corruption. How is, through the system, do you evidence any case of corruption? Does it happen?
Well, not that I'm insulated in my office, but coming from academia, I didn't have very much of experience with the bureaucracy because I was a vice chancellor of a university. But nonetheless, even in the UPSC, we have one of our functions is to conduct disciplinary cases where an officer has been found wanting for wrongdoing or for whatever reason and is charge sheeted or a departmental inquiry is there on some charge of wrongdoing, that eventually comes to the UPSC for a penalty or a decision. Penalty or a decision need not always have to be a penalty. They can be exonerated, they could be censured, but a stricture also could be given.
Oh. Then what happens if this man has a penalty?
If he has a penalty, it will be applied. He can appeal to the court. He can appeal to a court for this decision. And the court decision will be considered by the commission as per rules, as per guidelines.
Okay. Once you are accepted to this service as a public officer, what kind of training program do you have?
Immediately after, as I've said, there are 22 different cadres, 22 different branches of administration that they go. And I will just talk about 3 services, which are the All India services. And the All India services are services where they serve around the country as Indian Administrative Service Officers, Indian Police Service Officers, and Indian Forest Service Officers. They go for a training for 2 years before they go to the states. India being a country where we have the central government and the state governments, it's a federal structure, they are attached to a state. They are cadred in a state. They are attached to a state for a
So
period
there is
of
a
time.
two kind of bureaucracy.
They are appointed by the center, but they function initially in the states.
Okay. So at the level of state,
they go at the level of undersecretary or subdivision officer or deputy commissioner in charge of a subdivision
of the state.
And a state may have 20 subdivisions, 30, or large states may have 70 subdivisions. So after 2 years of training around the country in different institutes, the Indian Administrative Service Officers will go to Mussoorie, others will go to Baroda, others will go to Faridabad, their own respective. And then they go to the states and work in the states. And after a period of time, they can come back to the center.
Overall, the policy is you get people working around the country.
Around the country.
In that particular administration.
Yes.
I see.
And then, if they so wish, they can go back to their states again and get promotion in their own state cadre.
I see.
And they can come, if they are empaneled, they can come back at very senior levels to the government of India.
Now, let's talk a bit about the reward, salary level.
Yes.
And do you compare, in economy, it can be inflation, crisis.
Yes.
So how do you compensate public officers?
One of the best things that's happened in India is in the 6th Pay Commission, we've had one salary structure for all officers, whether it's the army, the police, the Indian Administrative Service, the geologists, all salary structures start at 1.
Okay.
And then there's an annual increment where they move up.
Oh.
Annual increment. And it also takes into consideration inflation, or these other things are factored in, and allowances are added on.
But it keeps moving
It keeps moving where there's a house
it will
rent.
be more expensive and expensive, state administration.
Yes, but there's also attempts to reduce the number of civil servants now. Yes, it's not as perhaps large as it was some time ago.
Say, teachers are public servants or not?
No, they are not public servants. They
Doctors.
they are part of academia, primary school teachers, higher secondary school teachers, and we have 2 types of authorities. One is the state, and they can get appointment in their respective states, or they can get appointed through the central schools, central government schools. There's also private initiative. And
so that's why you have there is a sector, though it's a public social sector, but it has, because public and private sectors, you don't regard teachers as public servants.
Well, there could be some level in which they will move up in their, it'll be a small branch though, where they will move up in the Ministry of Higher Education, Higher and Technical Education. There would be some who would move up there. Yes, but a larger number of them do not. They are in their classrooms, they are in their own workplaces.
Okay, because in Mongolia, teachers are regarded also as
Yes,
a public
yes.
officer. And
Yeah,
now they are demanding the increase of salary.
Right.
And they say that you have not increased at all. Now look at the inflation money is not enough. Now they are striking, for example. What have you been, teachers or doctors striking in India?
Well, there are strikes plenty in India for whatever reasons, but I don't think it would be,
Salary.
there are for many issues, for different issues, yes.
All right, let's talk a bit about your place. You are from Northeast
Northeast India,
Please
yes.
tell us about the region.
Northeast India includes a number of states, including Assam, Meghalaya, Arunachal, Mizoram, Manipur, Tripura. It's a beautiful green place and full of beautiful valleys and hills.
It's to the Himalaya.
To the east. No, it's south of the lower Himalayas in the
I
east,
see.
bordering on Bhutan to the north, Myanmar to the east, Bangladesh to the south, and also in the east. Yes.
Bangladesh is south.
So it's an extension of Indian the land into what we call the northeast. But
Northeast,
because of the boundary, it seems to be enclosed by.
There is some people who are somehow connected with Mongolia, right?
In the sense that they perhaps would have come from the stock, which is the Mongoloid stock. Stock meaning the larger group of people who trace their origin somewhere to the Mongoloid stock, not necessarily to the country of Mongolia, but in a migration perhaps somewhere, the Mongoloid stock of people.
As a historian, do you see in the history of two countries somehow, I mean, before, long time ago, somehow any relations before?
Well, number one is the ethnicity and the cultural background. The Mongoloid stock is a very common feature. And I can see, when I look around at people here in Mongolia, and I only have the experience in Ulaanbaatar, I can see definitely faces that remind me of people at home. And you, for one, Jargal, is as much a person from the northeast as I can imagine.
I see.
There's a tremendous similarity in the features.
Is it where the Dalai Lama is, or Dalai Lama is?
No, Dalai Lama is in
Dharamsala?
Tibet. He has his office operative in the Dharamshala up in the hills. That's another part of the hills.
Another part of
North, closer to Delhi.
Now, you have been working also in academia.
Yes, academia.
What is the role of academia in development? How do you finance it? How do you get them connected with businesses?
Well, academia is supported by the state largely, whether by the state governments, and we have 29 state governments, or by the central government. And the financing of education is by both the center or the. Now private sectors are moving in. It's been there for a long time. Education is at a level of professors of university and research institutes and technological institutes play a very important role in supporting policy direction and making annual plans, the economy. They are utilized by the government of India to the extent possible with their experience that they have.
Do you have, for example, China has 5-year plan. Do you have similar?
Yes, we did move from 1952 onwards into a series of 5-year plans, and they were. It gave a direction as to the planning that India would do in its economy.
And it keeps going on now?
It keeps going on, yes.
So then at the end of 5 years, somebody summarizing, evaluating what is done?
Yes, we have different bodies and agencies which evaluate the functioning, taking stock of the plans and the functions that have been done over the 5 years. It's a very complex but very well organized review of the 5-year plans.
Democracy is something that we believe in a lot of countries that's very important, and fair democratic election is important, but very important more than election is people's participation, people's control of the power, public sector. What's your thought on that?
The right to vote is guaranteed to the Indian people, and it's a right to vote that makes them proudly Indian. They participate extremely, in a very large extent, at all levels of voting, whether it is to the local level, whether it is to the state or to the parliament. We have different levels of voting processes, and it's a very fair system that we have. And the Election Commission of India, which monitors and regulates the election function, is a constitutional body which puts into operation all the dates, the processes, the results of the elections.
In that regard, I have another question, which quite kind of painful in Mongolia, because we cannot control. We don't know how Mongolian political parties are financed. Well, actually, we know they are financed by people who has money, but we don't see any report. Yet this political party is forming the administration bureaucracy who will control the country. That's why, to me, that's why it doesn't work well. That's why we face a lot of corruptions. So how you control? How do you know your political parties are not financed by people who can, through that donation, can buy things, powers?
Well, the Indian political system is that political parties do receive contribution for their political campaigns and whatever, and they have to give an account of their expenditure to the Election Commission. There's an accounting of their expenditure to the Election Commission.
In other words, their revenues and expenses, they report. How often?
Well, there's a schedule for it. I can't go into that. I mean, these details are not within my
the authority. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. However, I'm trying to thank you very much for sharing your structure information with us. I keep asking all this question because it is not working well here in this country. So political parties give their revenues and expenses to Election Commission, who is reporting to public?
Not to the public. It's an authority for which the expenses are given, and there's a reporting of it, and much of this is brought out into the public domain. There's a system by which, there's a very transparent system by which the Indian people will know the expenditure on elections.
And it was like this all the way?
Well, not in the previous past. More recently, this has been put into operation.
You see, now exactly we are on this phase now of our development. We are more requiring more transparency of political parties' actions, transparencies in our election commissions, without which we keep somehow, probably you are have you been surprised that we have very young, sometimes under 30, big, high-position young people?
No, I've not had the fortune of meeting them. My level was at a level of diplomacy, but you telling me this does show a comparative difference between our two countries.
Well, this is an endless, large topic, of course, and you are doing a very interesting job for a large country with millions, more than millions, public offices. Obviously, we cannot cover it within a few minutes.
No.
So I would like to thank you for this interview. And certainly when it comes to the audience, I do expect more questions or remarks after each of almost your sentence.
Thank you very much. I've enjoyed this interview.
Thank you, sir.
Dhanyabad.
Thank you. За хүн төлөвчтэй өнөөдөр манай de facto нэвтрүүлгийн зочноор энэ бүгд найрамдах Энэтхэг улсын Төрийн албаны холбооны комиссын дарга ноён Давид Syiemlieh оролцлоо. Баярлалаа.